You are listening to Connect, Inspire, Create, and I am your host, Carol Clegg. Join me as we discuss a variety of topics on my show, including entrepreneurial journeys, life skills, mindset motivation, and marketing resources. Get ready for some valuable insights from my fantastic guests that will help empower and motivate you on this business journey. So let's dive in together and find inspiration to create success in midlife entrepreneurship. To my new listeners, hello and welcome. I am glad that you have chosen to come and spend some time with us. In today's episode 115, we are going to be chatting about turning your expertise into relevant, memorable training that sticks. Are you ready to hear fresh strategies to create powerful online courses? Perhaps you're procrastinating as you don't know what the next steps are or how to package your idea and information into a course that people will not only complete, but achieve their desired results. That's always what we're looking for, is not only that completion, but that getting what you've promised. And Nancy shared with me that there's just a figure for you to sort of think about. The demand for online, virtual, and digital courses is so strong and growing, and it's expected to reach over 325 billion by 2025. So let me introduce my guest today. Nancy Giere is a course creation expert. She works with businesses of all sizes, from solopreneurs to Fortune 100 companies, to turn their expertise into high-profit courses. She creates engaging, fun, and interactive programs that get you results. And that includes some different opportunities. One is done with you, the other one is done for you. Course creation for solopreneurs, detailed support, which I'm going to ask Nancy a little bit more about, for organizations. And if you are looking for a captivating keynote speaker, do take a look on Nancy's website with some of her popular keynotes that she has done. So welcome, Nancy. Thank you for being part of the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here today.
Lovely. I am excited to dig into this topic. But before we do, I'd love to just let our audience know a little bit about Nancy behind the scenes. So I have two quick questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
All right. What is something that people would be super surprised to know about you?
They'd be super surprised to know that when I was 18, that I won a bikini slalom ski race. To look at me today, you wouldn't expect
How
that.
fun is that?
It'd be frightening, frankly, if I did it today.
Memories. Now I'm moving on to coming at a different angle, thinking about who has been kindest to you. Who comes to mind?
Do you know the person that always comes to mind, or people that come to mind when I hear kindness, are my parents. They were both very generous people. And I remember one time my dad was looking at somebody, was upset about they'd given somebody a gift and they didn't appreciate it. And my dad said, you know what, when you give a gift, you give a gift. That's it. And you give because it's something you want to do for someone else. And that, taught me early on is really to not have a lot of expectations.
Right.
Because oftentimes that leads to disappointment.
Absolutely. And I love that. You're giving a gift, you're giving it from the heart, and let that be. You're not responsible for somebody else's reaction.
The joy should come in the giving.
Right. That's lovely.
And if there's appreciation, that's not, it's always nice. But if you go into it with, I'm doing this, that you've got a motive behind it.
Right. That you've chosen to do that. So I love all the encouragement and different things that I see on your website. And so I just wanted to start with, I know a lot of people get stuck with this whole course creation.
Sure.
What do you think, and your clients, I know we talk about them being a broad spectrum because you're talking to the solopreneurs, and I love the fact that you have things for companies to be able to include in their training and so many different things. But what do you think the client's biggest challenge? And I know that's probably not a one-word answer. Where do they sort of start with this big challenge that then they don't move. And
One of
how
the
do you
big,
help them with
sure.
that?
One of the biggest challenges that people have is they have a lot of content that they've created over the years, and it's disorganized. It's all over the place. And to be able to look across it and figure out how to pull it all together, that is the big challenge on the front end. Then as we get further down the line, the second challenge that comes up is when it comes to recording video. Even though we've all been living on Zoom for the last few years, there's still this sense of discomfort around video, whether they're doing it in a home office in a Zoom space or they go into a studio, because it's, that's your, you're putting your whole persona out there when you go on, when you're doing video, and people will often choke at that point. But it's really kind of getting past that first hurdle in the beginning of coming up with, well, what is it that you want to accomplish and who do you serve? And then to be able to look across all the material you have and say, okay, how do I put all of this together in a way that's going to make sense? That's going to be easy to follow. And that's going to be focused on the core objective that I want to get people to.
Right. And that is where you come in with this done
Yes.
for you or done with
Yes.
you, which I love that you have both options.
And sometimes, it's as simple sometimes as just saying to people, and, when I'm coaching them through the process, to go, okay, just start going through and think about, well, what presentations do you have? Look at your presentations, look at your articles, just go through and take time to put all of that content into one folder and label it in a way so that you know what's there. I mean, it seems obvious, but like a lot of it, we keep doing things and we just, you save it, and you save it. You don't necessarily think about, well, from a repurposing mindset when you're creating the content, even though certainly it's a lot easier to start
Start fresh, or to start with something. But I like that when you say pull things together, because it's giving you this bird's eye view at least.
Yes.
And as you said, because I stumble across things that I've stored in Google Drive and I went, oh, wow, that's brilliant. But I forgot about it.
Where did that go? But
so,
and I'll then
bringing it together.
And then once they come up with, a high level outline, then, then we look at it and go, okay, what is the information that people need to know versus what is nice to know? What is more enrichment content? So if you're trying to get people to a particular skill level, what is the essential information to get them there? And then what is other information that they can bring in that may be interesting? There's a certain amount of enrichment, but it's not critical.
Right. So and that kind of answers, because I was going to ask you, what type of content do you feel that, and let's talk with the solopreneur hat on. I mean, I'd love for people to share, obviously, that you work with corporations and companies, and that, could perk somebody's ears and go, I need to share Nancy with a company that should be perfect. But for my audience, thinking of this midlife woman solopreneur, what kind of content is going to work best in an online course? And I know once again, as well, what are you teaching or what are you trying to get out of this? But is there certain content that leave that alone, don't bring that in and focus on this rather?
When we're looking at content, one of the main ways to consider it is how much feedback does somebody need to be successful? What can they do on their own? And I find with a lot of the people that I work with that are coaches, there's certain basic ideas, there's certain activities that people can work through on their own independently. But if you really want to dig deeper, let's say around mindset, for example, that's something that is coming up all the time, but you have to have the right mindset. Well, you could give me some exercises, some practices that I can use. You can tell me to create a gratitude journal, to have daily affirmations. And I can, okay, I've got that. But what if I do that and I'm still feeling kind of like, or I'm just, I'm grateful. I believe I'm awesome, but am I really, that doesn't sound
getting the benefits,
I'm just saying it, but I haven't embodied it yet. So I've been recommending to people to look at it. Don't look at being, having this hugely successful online course only, but take a look at your business and say, given the people that I serve and what I do, how does this fit into the mix? I think people have been lulled into this idea of, I'll do an online course and I'm going to make millions and millions and millions of dollars. If you have a big list, yeah, that opportunity is there. But most people in the solopreneur space don't have a giant mailing list. So if you think about, it's probably easier to sell 10 high ticket packages that are maybe $5,000, $10,000 than to try to sell hundreds of things or thousands of things for $100. So if you look at, the other part is by integrating this online content, that's the basic principles, it frees you up and it gives you more time to either serve more people or travel more or whatever, either way, you have more leisure time.
Travel.
Here's the travel that's on my mind today. Does it, it gives you more leisure time or the opportunity to serve more people,
right?
Make more money, because you can work with them at a deeper level. If you've given them, go and do the first module and read up about gratitude and the importance of gratitude, and get your journal and get into and start that practice. So then when you meet with them, you can talk about, well, tell me what you're experiencing, what's happening. And then you can, then as a coach, you can meet them where they are.
I love that. It's
which is really what coaches do.
Right.
They may have a plan. They may have here's my 12-month plan that I'm going to take people through, but somebody may be experiencing, maybe they're having job dissatisfaction, or they're concerned about self-image, or whatever that might be. So you got to take them where they are and go, wait a minute, this is week 2. We're not talking about that for 6 weeks, but the person's like, but this is what I need now from you.
Exactly.
And that is the biggest challenge around that particular type of business, or even the consulting business, for example. But what you can have as a key difference is if you've built out courses and modules, instead of sending somebody, here's a PDF you can read.
Right.
Then you can say, here's a course, I want you to go and do this module in the course. And then they get that, then they get what they need. And then you can continue to keep your party moving, if you will.
And I love that, because I think that interaction of creating an entire package, it gives, as you say, the coach that opportunity to actually be talking to the client. And to me, I hear, accountability being taken care of. I hear procrastination being helped on the other side. So that would lead me to, how do we get our clients to complete courses? Because I think everybody, if you had to say, so how many courses did you sign up for this year? And how many did you complete?
I know this. Well, I believe one of the biggest issues around completion rates is much of this initial wave of online courses. I think we're through the first wave of it now, maybe even the second. They're flat, they're dull, excuse me, and they're boring, because what people did is said, well, great, I'll just take my webinar and I'll record it, and then I'll just put I'll just send it out. Okay, here it is. And I'll add some worksheets. Well, a webinar is a very different experience, because you've got people in the moment. They're in that community. It's what's going on. Then there's Q&A that's happening. That's with those people in that moment. When you take it and then you put it out in the world, you're expecting people to watch something passively for an hour. And let's face it, most courses are not like binge watch. It's not like, oh, I'm going to watch all of the show shrink from end to end because it's so awesome. But it's a different type of a feeling. Here's the other thing that I believe is, everybody on the planet today has been consuming entertainment via some sort of a screen, whether it's in a movie theater, a TV set, a computer, an iPad, an iPhone. We're consuming content on screens. And most of the content that we consume, if you think about it from an entertainment angle, there's a lot of motion, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of scene changes. So and that is creating engagement, that the scenes keep changing. You can watch a commercial and it'll change, maybe 50 times in a minute. You're like, okay. But so we're conditioned to this movement. And then when we produce our training videos, it becomes talking head or slides and a disembodied person. And many people, if their presentations weren't good in person, it's magnified when you're in the online space, because you can't read what's happening with your audience. So you need to really be thinking about creating lots of changes and having really high quality visuals and movement from scene to scene to scene, going back and forth between being on camera and talking to the audience.
You're giving away such nuggets here. Thank you,
it's just,
Nancy.
and it even and when you think about it, going back to recording a webinar, on the surface, it makes sense. But what you want to do is think about, what would this look like as an evergreen course? So when you go to do your webinar, you're dividing it into segments,
right?
And you're being mindful of, I'm going to talk I've got this part is 5 minutes. I'm going to pause. I'm going to smile at the camera. I'm going to take some questions. I'm going to pause again, smile at the camera. And what that does is it gives you space to edit. So you've got a much better chance of having a series of short, discrete recordings that then you can put together in a way that's going to make sense.
When you talk about that in webinar, there's nothing worse when I hear somebody talking to their audience and you know that it's a webinar because you don't see the questions, and they talk about the questions and they talk about the interaction, and it's not there.
It's not there. Or I don't care about the questions that the people had in the webinar.
Right.
So what you can do, if you cut them out, save them and make a frequently asked questions document.
That's wonderful.
And then people
advice.
can choose to look at it or not look at it, because adult learners want to make choices.
Absolutely. Now, I do want to share with our listeners that if you are looking for an easy to follow step-by-step process to create engaging online courses, I suggest that you add Nancy's book to your library. Bundle your brilliance, turn your expertise into profitable online courses in Kindle and paperback. Am I correct? Available
That's correct.
Yeah, and so I'll have a link in the show notes. And congratulations as well, because I saw that your book made the top of the charts.
I did. I had my 15 minutes of fame where
that's very cool. Yeah,
it's very fun. That whole playing the bestseller game is a lot of fun.
Well, congrats on that, and I'll make sure that the link's there for people to grab your book. I know that on a side note, Nancy is heading out this evening on a fabulous trip to start another project on a book, but that's something completely different. But I'm excited for you to be heading out and going on an adventure. So how would you, Nancy, describe your audience? Who would be able to benefit from working with you?
Well, I work with businesses of all sizes, and it really splits between an entrepreneurial group, and where they oftentimes have written a book and they want to turn the book into a course, or they're looking at, what can I do to generate some passive income, or how can I streamline what I'm doing to have more time to work with the clients that I have now. So that's in the one group. Then I'll work with businesses, corporations, and often there's more of a need for training employees than training customers. I run into that. That's more the bulk of my work there. I'll come in, I'll either do a specific project, or I'll be a fractional chief learning officer to help them with strategy and planning. So it really runs the gamut. I've had a pretty long career working in training and development, pretty much any type of content you can imagine, and across all different types of businesses. So that's given me the ability to see a lot of patterns and how things work. So I can come in and hit the ground running, because I know a little bit about a whole lot of stuff.
That's wonderful.
So people ask me what I'm an expert in. Well,
a little bit of everything. Nothing wrong with that. Relax. Nancy, is there an upcoming project that we need to shout out about? Is there anything that's coming up next for you?
I do have a program that I'm going to start in May, and it's my fast track course. And what
Okay.
that is it's 3 weeks. And I walk people through, I teach them the methodology. And by the end of the course, they'll have a good framework of what I call a design blueprint, so that they're
Okay.
ready then to move into content creation. And then once
Fabulous.
that's done, people they'll choose to continue on in a group program that runs for 12 weeks where I continue to coach them, or they'll arrange to work with me one-on-one to help them through the process.
Lovely.
So
And
that's
will that be up on your website or not yet? How will they just email you? What's the best way?
the best way is to email, and I can get you the registration link that you can drop into the show notes.
Wonderful. That'll be fantastic. And then I have your website, which will be in the show notes. I also have your social media connect channels, find you on Facebook and LinkedIn. And then I've also got a wonderful 8 easy steps. I've got a link in there that people can grab that as well.
Yes.
So this has been wonderful. So if this hasn't inspired you to seriously consider starting a course, including it in your coaching, I think now's the time to get hold of Nancy. So thanks, Nancy, for sharing so much wisdom and inspiration.
Oh, you're very welcome.
So before we sign off, I just wanted to let you know that I am your host, Carol Clegg. As a coach, I help women solopreneurs in midlife overcome procrastination, find balance in their business, and cultivate a positive mindset. Through tailored accountability and mindset coaching, you can confidently step out of overwhelm, know your worth, and create a fresh path to success. Thanks for listening. If you have been inspired by our conversation today, I'd love to ask you to share it wherever you like to share your content. Let this get out to more listeners. And I encourage you this week to explore your own way of connecting, inspiring, or creating that will bring joy into your world. So until the next time, take care.